So, hello and welcome to Beyond the Hub, where we talk about everything from sales to marketing to your business as a whole. And today we're going a bit more niche with the education industry. So, whether you're an online only university or you're a multi trust academy, you'll want to stay and listen. So, today, to help me dig into it a bit deeper, is James Murphy, Principal Inbound Growth Specialist at HubSpot, who's got over 7 years of experience helping educational businesses grow the HubSpot way. So, let's dive straight in, James. You spent countless hours talking to people in the education industry about digital transformation. What are the challenges that people are facing right now?
Hey, Bridget, how's it going? Nice to meet you and nice to be on the podcast. Thanks for inviting me along. Yeah, I guess the first question you're asking me, I think probably a preface to it would be to say that the education space is a pretty broad church. There's a lot of diversity within it. And I think probably each of those different areas has been facing different challenges. Let's take one, for example, maybe the online learning or adult development, kind of professional development space. There's been a lot of acquisitions and mergers in there. And I think one of the biggest challenges those organizations are facing is how to consolidate their teams and their operations in technology, CRM being one of them. So that's something that I would speak to a lot of organizations about currently over the last, say, year or so. I think COVID kind of accelerated, uh, you know, movers and shakers in that industry. Maybe more traditional red brick style education organizations, your schools, your further education colleges, your higher education colleges. I think a challenge that they're facing would be the kind of there's a multitude of disparate, very specific systems that these teams use.
Mhm.
And there is not one central place that can kind of give them that central view of the student. And while all of those tools are quite good at a very specific function, they're not really designed to help provide a best-in-class customer experience or a student experience that a lot of these organizations want to do. So there are some of the challenges that my clients, my customers would face at the moment.
I like what you said there about like a central view of the student, because that's what this is all about. And I think you kind of touched on it there, where um, the systems are built maybe for the people that are using them, not for the end user, and that's what they need to be focusing on, is the student, and that's the kind of endpoint, right?
Yeah, in a way, you're correct. I think a lot of them are, if we think about, say, front office and back office, probably a good way to explain it, right? So a lot of these systems that say, let's just take a university or college use, they're really good at what they do, but they're back-end operational systems. They're when the student is enrolled, how to schedule classes, how to manage their grades. And while that's absolutely fundamentally important, I think there's an awareness over the last number of years that there's a hell of a lot of stuff that goes on before that, right? Potential students have a lot of choice. It's a very considered decision to make an investment in your education, especially, let's take exec ed, it's a lot of money to do an MBA. So there's an awareness that, the business does not start at application. It's actually happening a year or two before that. And those operational systems, while they're excellent at what they do, they are not cut out to be an omni-channel, nurturing alignment tool for your marketing, recruitment, admissions teams. And that's where, CRM, that's where HubSpot comes in. And really a big part of it is helping teams understand how to connect those systems and how to map their processes and kind of slim down the work that operational system does, keep doing what it needs to do from a kind of back end system, but allow much more of that journey be managed and enhanced in a modern, easy to use CRM such as HubSpot.
And I think we can't really talk about systems and technology and the CRM without touching on AI. So it's a big topic, but what is the feeling in the education industry about its use, especially considering that digital maturity is a big issue in the sector?
Yeah, I was waiting for AI to come up for 5 minutes. It has to come up. Yeah. So look, it's education is the same as any other industry. I think that there's probably an acceptance that last year was the year of AI hype, right? And it was fantastic, and we're all using ChatGPT with our families, and it's great. But I don't think that it's fair to say, I know for a fact in the education industry, hasn't really been absorbed in the workplace just yet. Now, I believe that this year will be a change to that. I would say fair that there probably is some maybe resistance to technology or developments in some sectors of the education space. But I was at a workshop recently. I was presenting to a an association of marketeers that work in the UK college network. And I do think marketing will be the way in for AI in, say, education. I think they'll be first to grab it. And I was giving a demonstration of little plug for our tool, Campaign Assistant, but that went down really, really well. And I think that kind of speed to produce content for marketing teams by using AI will be probably the way in. And later on, things like call transcription might be taken up by admissions a long way down the line. But I think marketing will leverage some of those tools. Just to give you an example of why I think that would be the way in, think of a common, start of a recruitment funnel for a college or an FE college. Might be an open day campaign, right? And as part of that, the marketeers, they need to spin up a landing page, they need to create it, they need to put some content in, they'll need to publish that online. They might need to then create an email and send it to a segment of their database. And then they might want to create an ad campaign to promote the landing page, for example. So there's your bare bones of a pretty, standard campaign. The campaign assistant that I demoed to this association of marketeers involved just using our campaign assistant tool, which has AI baked in. You just tell the tool what you want to do, what the theme of the landing page is, a little bit of blurb about what you want to do, a couple of you choose whether you want it to be a witty or humorous or confident tone, and you pop in your call to action, you press a button, and while it then mocks up what that looks like, and that's not exactly revolutionary because we were all using AI last year, the pretty cool thing is with the next click of a button, the AI tool will map that into HubSpot and map it into a perfectly modularized landing page. It'll create the email templates. And then with a little bit of editing, you've got a campaign up and going. In a matter of minutes, half an hour, you can have a pretty effective campaign. Whereas before, it might take you a day to do something like that. So that's just one example of how I think education marketeers specifically will grab AI this year. And it's pretty exciting for them.
I love that. And as a marketer, I obviously use those tools a lot and it saved me a lot of time. But what I think as well is really interesting, and I wonder if it's got an application to the education industry, is the new the forecasting AI. So with the recruitment teams in the education industry, do you see that making a dent there?
So being totally candid, I probably see, again, it gets into I suppose, the specifics of the industry broadly. Yes. I don't see a school or a college or a university using predictive forecasting for student recruitment anytime soon. Mm-hmm. What I do see is maybe at the top end of executive education, where there is really a weighted kind of very clear value to the course that they're managing through and the recruitment journey. That might be something that would leverage it. Yes. But the other side of the industry, your e-learning company, your online company, where it's much more e-commercey, yes. They would definitely have applications for it. And yeah, I could see that being an exciting development for those type of orgs.
So I guess, AI has been the big conversation the last year, but let's look back a little bit further. How have conversations changed? I know you mentioned already COVID, and that's probably that's gonna be another big one, even though it's 3 years later. But has it remained static? What priorities have changed? What kind of goals have changed?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think if I think back of it, maybe bookending, let's just take 5 years ago, right? Compared mm-hmm. to now. I think 5 years ago, again, the overwhelming majority of my conversations were with marketing teams. I think that probably goes into the maturity of our product. We were definitely marketing first 6, 7 years ago, where we're CRM first now. Marketeers, when I was speaking with them, what the holy grail was the phrase, better view on the student journey, understanding the student journey. And I think that came out of maybe a reality that they were probably using a bunch of different tools that weren't speaking to each other. And then the student journey could be quite long. They could not really effectively or confidently understand what was contributing or not to that journey. So our marketing hub was a pretty nice proposition to them, as you can appreciate, right? All the tools in one place, and you can really understand the different touch points that bring people from A to B, or from downloading a prospectus to signing up to an enrollment. Fast forward 5 years, while that's still a great thing to have, I think it's the flip side of that now that people want. And the phrase I hear an awful lot from people, and it could be across teams, is delivering a better student experience. So it's the other side of that coin, right? You're able to do that by understanding the touch points. But if you think about it, it's no longer just marketing's remit. It's omni-channel. It's making sure that the voice of the institution is aligned, whether you're an admissions person, a recruitment person, or a marketing person. So now my conversations are multi-stakeholder, multi-team, and yeah, that's probably been the biggest change over the years that I've noticed.
And just touching back on that, when you say multi-team, so what kind of teams is it important to now?
Yeah, so again, you've got your kind of, if you think of again, going back to front office and back office, I speak to front office people are the people who would be engaging with people along the candidate journey primarily. So that's your marketing folks, your recruitment slash admissions, some comms people in there. And yeah, I'm having conversations with more admissions directors, more directors of recruitment now, and they're encouragingly, wanting to assess our sales tools. And again, we've got to try and balance that. Sales can be considered a dirty word in education because no one in education likes to think they are in sales, but they kind of are. And we do have a sales hub that more and more teams are beginning to leverage because they see the benefit of having those productivity or engagement tools that fit in with how they work. That is part of the same systems of the marketing hub. So yeah, we need to make sure that their requirements are being met as well. So that's where the multi-teams come in.
You kind of touched on it again there, but specifically with all these unique stakeholders, I think education is one of those ones that is very unique. But what are their specific challenges and concerns, I suppose, when it comes to CRM?
Yeah, some of it is like getting used to the terminology of like how data is stored or structured in a CRM. Like HubSpot is not. I say this to all my prospective clients. We're not an education specific platform, and I think the more that we explore it with them, you see that that's a benefit. It's highly customizable, but with that becomes neat. With that requires a little bit of, I suppose, how can I say it? A little bit of flexibility from some stakeholders to maybe change the terminology they're using, be comfortable with the word deal, perhaps small little things like that. But you'd be amazed how that can be a little bit challenging to some teams to make that change. You asked again another kind of preference or another kind of another important consideration clearly would be data security, data integrity. That's also something that is is really important at the moment. And then I think commonly, one of the biggest challenges these teams face is like shelfware, having a system that is not easily adopted by teams. So really having a system that can be, set up easily, quickly, it feels intuitive. They're kind of the things that when you get into it are going to be more important for successful implementation in my experience.
I love that. And we talk a lot about adoption internally because it is just, if you don't get that right at the start, it's not going to go anywhere. The system will die. But you've touched on sales and marketing there, but not really the support side of things. So what are the kind of benefits and concerns that the support team might have with the CRM?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say that if I look at my customer base, Service Hub, our support offering, is frequently used by lots of those organizations that are kind of more commercially focused. Your e-learning company, your online training company, they love things like Knowledge Hub, Knowledge Base. They like chat automation to help, I suppose, service those high volume, low value queries. So they're using it quite a bit. Some of my larger university customers would also use it in that way, but it's not as commonly taken across maybe my school, college customers just yet. So I don't think many of them have as developed a support team. Some of the larger ones have contact centers, so there is a play there of having Service Hub. But yeah, the definition between Sales Hub and Service Hub isn't as clear for some of my clients. But the further up the food chain you go, they do have student supports teams that are a perfect fit for Service Hub.
And if they're not using HubSpot, what other platforms are typically coming up either against HubSpot, or that in what way does HubSpot have an edge on them, would you say?
Yeah, good question again. There are some of the, the big beasts are constantly
Yes.
in and around the customers that we work with. So Microsoft is in a lot of universities already. The IT teams are using them for lots of different tools across the campus. So CRM is a natural fit for them. Uh, but and again, sorry, I would say the likes of Salesforce is in there as well. We don't see as much of Zoho and Pipedrive and things like that. Again, I referenced earlier on, there's lots of, I wouldn't really call them CRMs. They're more like student information systems that are in the back end, and they're for serving a great purpose. But I think HubSpot really has an edge in terms of it can act as that kind of nice balance of as powerful as your Salesforce or Microsoft's, which are fantastic platforms, but admittedly, we're a lot easier to use. So that is a bit of a attractive proposition for teams that are maybe a little bit digitally resistant or hesitant or not as CRM, savvy as maybe other industries. So HubSpot's a nice proposition with our, learning and support tools and just that quick time to value. And we're seeing it we're seeing a lot of referrals from colleges that start using HubSpot, and then they meet at a conference and explain how well they did with HubSpot. So yeah, that's kind of where we fit in amongst a multitude of players.
I guess in any industry, that word of mouth referral, that's always going to be a big player in that. But I think what's interesting, what you spoke about the IT teams there, and we are as an agency, we're increasingly seeing IT teams come up as one of those stakeholders. They've got big say, and in education, they've got a lot to say. Do you think?
Absolutely. The success of, I suppose, my job and let's call it a deal's, a deal's success can live and die by the buy-in or support or openness to an IT team being involved with the stakeholders they work with. For sure, they're fundamentally important. Typically, they have a list of quite often non-functional requirements, and you either meet them or you don't. And thankfully, we generally tend to meet them, which is really great. And once you can kind of make sure they're reassured about certain fundamentals, they can be quite an important ally to help your champion, which is generally marketing or student recruitment focused, to bring the project to fruition. And I would also say, if you think about it, like sometimes it can be being digitally, I suppose, what's the word?
Michelle?
No, sometimes being digitally curious or being assertive to make a change in a university environment can be a bit of a risk to the stakeholder. These institutions have been around for 200-300 years. You know what I mean? They've been doing what they've been doing really, really well for a long time. So, you've got to bring people with you to make that change, to implement a system. So I really respect a stakeholder that's coming in to try, put themselves out there to make it happen, because it's very easy to just not do that, and quite often the compelling event to a successful implementation or a successful project can be that senior leadership change. Someone who's coming in and part of their brief is very clearly to help the institution digitally transform. And that stakeholder is key then to bringing the IT team with them, and it's a two-way street. They can then reassure them that everything will be all right, and that's partners like yourself come into that picture. But yeah, it's not surprising that some institutions are still hesitant, because it can be a kind of a vulnerable place for someone if you're trying to do it and people aren't coming with you in a large institution. Totally get that.
And it's not going to be overnight either, which is also often.
No.
It's never as easy as just turning it on. It takes weeks, months to get it right, especially when, I guess, with these education businesses, that they will need to be lots of integrations. It's not kind of standalone. It will integrate with those student information platforms, you called it.
Yeah, that's just one piece of technology that HubSpot would need to integrate with, and you'd need to map your processes and journey and understand which part of the journey, which information should be passed from one system to the other. There could be learning management systems. A lot of organizations will have an LMS.
Yep.
It's a really attractive proposition to have that integrated with HubSpot as well, and use behavioral based triggers for upsell or cross-sell or nurturing. So let's just say someone hasn't logged into their LMS in a couple of months, but maybe they need a bit of a nudge automatically from HubSpot, or maybe someone's raced through level 1 and got a great grade. Well, the LMS should tell HubSpot that so we can then nurture them with the next product. So yeah, that's just two examples. A lot of e-learning companies will have e-commerce functionality that needs to be incorporated. So yeah, that's just touching on a couple event organizations. Event technology is key to education as well. So your Eventbrite and the likes of that need to play with HubSpot. So yeah, thankfully we've got a really extensive app store with over a thousand of those applications that they can plug in, and then we have API documentation which can allow partners or developers to help them out and build a custom integration.
I have one more question. I feel like you've kind of answered it a little bit by talking about that kind of champion internally, but what else do you think separates the higher ed businesses that succeed with digital transformation and then those that don't?
Yeah, I kind of did touch on it actually, if you think about it, because one thing I would say is you need a strong champion to make it happen. It's helpful for everyone. So someone coming in with the brief and with the backing to, push this through, because when you get in under the hood of these projects, sometimes you realize it was tried 2 years ago and it just didn't go anywhere, or it was tried 3 years ago and it was a disaster and people are a little bit burned from it. So, and I'm sure you've come across that before. So a strong champion on their side is key. And I would also say having a partner, a HubSpot partner, to be that link between the software and their team is fundamentally important. And I've been doing this for 7 years, probably hundreds of implementations. The vast majority of them have gone really, really well, but there's a big correlation between a partner being in the room from the start and the level of success. So yeah, I do encourage my clients to work with a partner.
Level of experience.
Exactly. Just having done it before, industry expertise, knowing how to help them manage change internally. That's a big part of it. Helping them to structure how they're going to run workshops. That's the kind of the kind of unknown pieces to a successful implementation that mightn't be considered, throughout the evaluation stage. So partners can run those and offer their expertise and do, as I say, they can do for you rather than just showing you. They can actually get their hands around the project much more successfully.
Save you some time. And I think a big part of that is you don't know what you don't know. So there could be things that you hadn't even thought of that a partner's experience would kind of come into play there. And something we do like to show is our demo portal, where we've got that story mapped out from open day right through to them kind of managing the student experience. So I'll pop a link below for people to sign up and they can have a little play around with HubSpot itself. And I think we've kind of covered everything there, James, unless there's anything that you've thought of throughout that I haven't mentioned.
Yeah, just as to kind of add on to, I suppose, a couple of our points, maybe I would say that a very important in the education space is social proof. Having, like you said, getting those referrals, or having a lot of the stakeholders, they go to conferences together. They go training together. There's a lot of commonality to their worlds. And while there's competition, it's kind of there's also cooperation. So I think that knowing that a very similar institution in a different part of the country has done this well, and has off the record off the record testimonials with another organization, that's really powerful. And it's the same with a partner as well. So the level of industry expertise or experience is key, and I think that can really help the snowball keep going, because it's been an exciting space. It's HubSpot's only it's only industry vertical the last number of years, because it's a perfect fit for it, and that level of kind of experience and expertise it's important to make sure the success of implementations, and it's the same with partners as well.
Great, that has been super useful, super informative. I've definitely learned a lot from today. So thank you so much for joining us today, James.
Cheers, Bridget. Nice to meet you.